After the Civil War, Black people across the South experienced unprecedented progress and prosperity. Wilmington, North Carolina emerged as a Black Mecca by the 1880s, owing to rising literacy rates, political representation, and economic opportunities. However, this era of advancement would be tragically short-lived. Threatened by Black success, white supremacists orchestrated a campaign of violence and intimidation to reclaim power. The following timeline chronicles the rise of Black prosperity, growing white resentment, and racial tensions, leading to the violent expulsion of Black and white city leaders and the imposition of white supremacist rule. Black literacy in North Carolina rose dramatically from near total illiteracy to about 2/3 that of white citizens. Wilmington became a magnet for thousands of freed slaves seeking job opportunities. Black residents worked as skilled tradesmen and held positions in local government, including firemen, police, judges, and city officials. 3 Black-owned banks were established. Black-owned businesses flourished. By 1880, Black residents made up 60% of Wilmington's population, the highest proportion of any sizable southern city. Some Black residents, like pawnbroker and real estate owner Thomas Miller, accumulated considerable property. There was a thriving Black middle class and a vibrant cultural life. Black literacy in Wilmington became the highest in the state. Some white working men resented Black economic success. White business leaders viewed Black prosperity as a threat to their social and economic dominance. This resentment set the stage for the events leading to the 1898 coup. A severe economic recession hit North Carolina farmers particularly hard. The Republican and People's parties formed a coalition dubbed Fusion from 1894 to 1900, addressing farmers' economic challenges and challenging Democratic hegemony. In 1894, Fusionists won the governorship, electing Republican Daniel L. Russell, won control of the state legislature, several congressional seats, and 2 Senate seats. Fusionists enacted progressive reforms, including a more liberal election law and restoration of local home rule in eastern North Carolina counties. Fusionist reforms led to an increase of over 80,000 registered voters in North Carolina. The success of fusion politics threatened Democratic control, leading to increased racial tensions and contributed to the events of the 1898 Wilmington coup. In 1897, Fusionists amended Wilmington's charter, creating a hybrid board of aldermen, 5 elected and 5 appointed by the governor, solidifying their political control of Wilmington city government. Governor Russell appointed 3 Black aldermen to Wilmington's board in 1897. Wilmington's key political power rested with the Big Four Fusionist leaders: Mayor Dr. Silas P. Wright, Acting Sheriff George Zadok French, Postmaster W. H. Chadbourne, and businessman Flaviel W. Fosters. The Big Four worked with a group called The Ring, which included about 2,000 Black voters and 150 white voters. This fusionist control of Wilmington's government became a focal point of white supremacist resentment. 9 prominent Wilmington men, known as the Secret Nine, began conspiring to retake control of the city government in late 1897. Rebecca Latimer Felton delivered a speech to the Georgia Agricultural Society claiming Black rapists were the greatest danger to farm wives. Felton advocated for lynching, stating,
"If it needs lynching to protect woman's dearest possession from human beasts, then I say lynch 1,000 times a week if necessary."
Alexander Manley, editor of the Wilmington Daily Record, the only black newspaper in Wilmington, published an editorial in August 1898 responding to Felton's speech. Manley argued that the entire black race should not be blamed for the actions of a few. He suggested that in many cases, white women were willing participants in interracial relationships. Manley pointed out the hypocrisy of white supremacists who overlooked white men's exploitation of black women. White supremacists began their campaign in the summer of 1898, using the state's most influential newspaper, the Raleigh News and Observer, to spread racist propaganda. White business leaders hoarded guns and invited help from Red Shirts, a sinister paramilitary Klan-like organization in the South. Alfred Waddell, a prominent American politician, delivered a speech declaring white supremacy as the only important issue. Waddell gave another speech on November 7th, calling for violence against black voters. Armed white men intimidated black voters on Election Day. Election officials engaged in ballot fraud to ensure a Democratic victory. Hundreds of white leaders formed a plan on November 9th to force out Wilmington's fusionist mayor and black officials. The White Declaration of Independence was published in the Wilmington Messenger on November 9th. A committee led by Waddell presented demands to prominent black citizens. The Committee of Colored Citizens responded cautiously to Waddell's demands, disavowing Manley's editorial and pledging cooperation. Their response failed to prevent the violent coup and destruction of the Daily Record. Waddell led 2,000 armed men to the Daily Record office on the morning of November 10th and burned it down. Violence spread through black neighborhoods. Armed groups, including the Wilmington Light Infantry, a white militia unit, and Red Shirts, attacked black residents with rifles, revolvers, and a Gatling gun. By sundown, up to 60 black people had been murdered. Waddell and his supporters forcibly removed the elected fusionist officials at gunpoint, and Waddell was elected mayor on the afternoon of November 10th. Many black leaders were jailed and forcibly expelled from the city. The coup resulted in the only successful overthrow of a legitimate government in U.S. history. Wilmington's demographics shifted dramatically, with the black population decreasing precipitously. The event was initially misreported as a Negro uprising in newspapers. Many coup leaders remained important figures in North Carolina politics until the 1920s. The state legislature enacted Jim Crow legislation, disenfranchising black citizens for decades. It took until the 1950s for the event to be recognized as a massacre, and not until 1998 for it to be officially acknowledged as an insurrection and coup. Historian Helen G. Edmonds published the first serious history of the coup in 1951, challenging previous interpretations. H. Leon Prather Sr. produced the second significant historical account of the events in 1984. Centennial Remembrances in Wilmington in 1998 brought together descendants of key figures, initiating public dialogue. Larae Sykes Umfleet, an award-winning historian with the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, authored A Day of Blood, the 1898 Wilmington Race Riot, a comprehensive account of the Wilmington coup for a state-commissioned investigation in 2009. The book was revised in 2020. Several historical markers in Wilmington acknowledge the coup. The publication of books like David Zucchino's Wilmington's Lie, The Murderous Coup of 1898, and The Rise of White Supremacy indicates growing awareness of post-Reconstruction racial violence. In 2018, North Carolina passed a constitutional amendment requiring state-issued photo identification for voting, echoing similar restrictions implemented after the 1898 coup. The Wilmington coup of 1898 stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the destructive power of racial hatred. The dehumanizing language used to justify violence against black citizens then bears uncomfortable similarities to rhetoric employed today. As we reflect on this tragic episode in American history, we are compelled to confront the ongoing legacy of racial injustice and the importance of safeguarding democratic institutions. The story of Wilmington serves as both a cautionary tale and a call to action, challenging us to build a more equitable and inclusive society for all.